everyone and welcome. This is Elena and today I'm back with another craft video for you. In this video I will show you how to make this box. It's like a hexagon box with some fancy folding. So I saw this a couple weeks ago when I went to an event for World Card Making Day, but I adjusted the measurements to fit my needs. So for the box I'll be using, and then I'll make a card. You saw it in the beginning. I won't show you because it's pretty simple. It's a shaker card, but we'll do some color layering, and I'm using my MISTI tool here. I'm using the Mini MISTI, and I'm using the color layering Baby Penguin from Hero Arts. And I'm using the coordinating pack of ink cubes and embossing powder. It has 3 ink cubes and sparkle embossing powder. So first I'm stamping the first layer using the soft granite ink pad. Well, ink cube actually. So I'm just doing multiple. I like usually stamping few, especially when I'm using the MISTI. So if I mess up one, then I have another one, or save it for later for different cards or different projects. So in between layers, I'm just quickly heat setting it so the layers are nice and crisp. Next, I'm positioning the second layer, and I'm using a little transparency. I'll be using my transparency grid, and I'll stamp on it to make sure that it's positioned correctly. So I'm doing that. Here I messed up a little bit. My paper moved, so I got a blurry image. But I'm repeating. I have 3 more that I can use, so even if one is not good, I have some extra to go. So now we're done with the second layer. And again, I will quickly heat set this to dry the ink. So for the last layer, actually I'll stamp it twice. First I'll stamp with a third ink cube, which is black. And actually here I'm using the intense black, so I'm positioning it. And I'm again using the transparency to make sure it's positioned correctly. So I have that little baby penguin there. Then I'm stamping the second one. So the first one, because it was messed up from before, I'm not gonna stamp over it with Versamark. So without moving my paper, I stamped on top of the black using Versamark ink, and then I applied some of the sparkle embossing powder. So I'm repeating the same on the other 2 penguins on another piece of paper. And next I'll use the Versamark on top of it. So I'm applying some sparkle embossing powder. So now I'm going to heat set all 3 of the little baby penguins. So you can see how that became shiny. Next I'm using the coordinating dies to cut the penguins out, and I'm here I have the Prism Spellbinders mini embossing machine. So usually I use a Big Shot or a Vagabond, but this kind of fits on my table, so I don't need to jump around to get to my regular size die cutting machine. So next we'll create the box, and I have paper that's 11 inches by 6 and 3/4, and I'm using some Shimmer sparkle spray to add some sparkle to that paper. Next I'm starting from the shorter side, and I scored at 2 and 6 inches. And then on the longer side, I scored every 1 3/4 inch. And then I was left with 1/2 inch. And now I'm just making little tick marks in between at 7-8 inches between the 2 score lines. So I apologize here for my head. So I'm using one of the oval infinity dies. And here I'm scoring from that tick mark to the where the score lines meet. So that will be the top of the box. That's the 1 3/4 inch tall section. So the bottom is 2 inches, and in the middle we have 3 inches. So the box will be 3 inches tall, and then it will have that hexagon fancy dome. So So because I sprayed it with the spray, I'm like heat setting it, and then I'm creasing all the score lines except on the top. I won't crease those. You will see how I'll fold them, kind of pinch and fold at those the tick marks we made. So here I'm using this bold print background stamp. Then I'll trim that piece off that's from the bottom. We don't need that little tab. We'll just connect the top and the body of the box. I apply their score tape. Now I'm again heat setting, not really heat setting it, but drying it up. So when I apply, because we'll do some more embossing, when I apply the embossing powder, it doesn't really stick to the wet paper. It only sticks to where I'll have the Versamark ink. So I'm using some larger sticky notes to mask the top and the bottom, and I'll only stamp in the middle. I'm applying that Versamark ink, and I'm using here the original MISTI. I'm doing it twice, so we have nice impression. So next, I'll again use the sparkle embossing powder. Kind of shake that off, and then I'm using some makeup brush that I don't use to remove the excess embossing powder from in between the images. Now heat set that. So now we'll just trim the flaps. This is the bottom. This is not the fancy dome. And now I'm pinching those where the tick marks were. Kind of folding and pinching. And you didn't see in the video, I stamped on both sides of the box, so it's not just the front side. So we have both, so I'm not boring you. I just show you how to stamp one of the sides. Then I turn it over and stamp it twice. So next here, notice that I missed to heat set a little piece, so I did that. So next we'll just put the bottom of the box together, kind of form that hexagon. So I'm using liquid glue because it has more give, so you can adjust your box any way you want. So I want it to have more kind of regular hexagon. So use the liquid glue, and it allowed me to adjust the layers, kind of the tabs. And then I'm going with the last one. We'll just hold that for a little bit until it sets. So next I'll kind of gather that the top and push it down. Because we had those folded before, it's very easy to form that fancy dome. Next I'm pinching again where we had the tick marks. And where we kind of pinched, I'm using 1/8 hole punch. And then I'll thread some silver cord through the holes. So here I have a little bit problem because it kind of frayed. So you will see me in a second. I decided to add some washi tape, kind of to make it like a shoelace, so I can lace it through those holes easier. So there are a couple more left. And I'm still having little issues here because I didn't do the washi tape very nicely. So, okay, we have that. Now I'm just gonna pull those strings, that cord, and tie it up on top. I did a little bow. Just adjust it and trim it off. Trim off the excess. Now I have vellum. This was again 11 pieces, 11 inches long, and then scored every 1 3/4 of an inch. The same as the box. So I'll use some vellum tape to adhere it on the back. Kind of this would represent the snow. So I'm just adhere it on the back, and that will stay there secure. Next I'll adhere the penguin, and I'm using some foam dimensionals, or you can use foam tape. So there's the little penguin. And now I'm trying to figure out which sentiment. So I decided to stamp the sentiment onto vellum and emboss it in white. And then cut it out, kind of die cut it using the oval infinity dies, one of the smaller ones. So you notice using the MISTI, I stamped the sentiment twice, so I have better impression on the vellum. So this is the little infinity die. So I'll secure it with some microsport tape and run it through my die cutting machine. So there's the sentiment, and I'll add little pieces of that vellum tape on the back across the sentiment because it already has some texture and white, so it's not really visible. Next, I previously stamped that little red bow using red royal ink, and now I'll die cut that one and adhere it on the penguin. So there's that little cute bow. I'm gonna just add a little dot of adhesive. Next, I'll do some sequins. Kind of position them, and then I use multi-matte medium to adhere them, and micro applicators. I'll have all the supplies listed in the description on the video and as well my blog, so you know where you can buy them. So I'm just adding quickly all the sequins, and then later on I decided to add the sequins as well on the back so my box is more uniform. So there's nice, and then I'm just added a little bit of wink of stella onto the bow. So that's it for today. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel and as well my blog. Bye!